Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and as much as I can't believe it, I'm finding myself in at least a good portion agreement with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's the second time since she popped onto the scene that I find this, and it's a little bit worrying and a little bit reassuring. But before we jump in, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you're among the first to know of all new content as it drops. Diving into this, we are in the argument about birth control being prescription or over the counter. Now, to give you a bit of a history lesson, I am a history teacher by trade after all. 1960 is when birth control as an oral option came to the US, and 59 years ago, it was chemically very different than it was even 5, 10 years ago, let alone today. So, the argument when it first arrived in the US to be prescription only was warranted. This is something that was never available before. Doctors had never even seen it. We've had 60 years of medical advancement, chemical advancement, and so on. So the argument that it's just too dangerous is no longer valid. And the other part of the argument that it's an all or nothing decision is not valid. You see, there are different versions of prescription drugs. There are different levels at which they handle different things. So this is something that could be a multi-tiered decision very easily. You could say that certain versions of birth control oral contraceptives are prescription only. Some of them must be handled behind the counter of a pharmacy. Others may be over the counter and available on the shelf. It's something that needs to be talked about. But what Ms. Ocasio-Cortez does not understand is it's her Democratic colleagues that are blocking this. Now, when oral contraceptives first dropped, they were brand new. This was science we'd never seen before. Happened again with Plan B, which is the morning after pill. And granted, with those, both times there was a lot of opposition. And it was opposition from people who are not medical professionals. I am probably in the minority of people in my circle of friends because I don't take a stance on the Plan B pill. I don't think it should just be available like Flintstones vitamins. But a pharmacist can ask you questions and check your blood pressure and say, do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you take any other drugs? Are you on any other prescriptions? This, that, all these things. And they can decide, would this pill be dangerous for you as a living, breathing human who's already had their birthdays versus someone else? And they can say, this is dangerous. You can't take this. Over-the-counter oral contraception that prevents pregnancy should be the same way. You have the tiers where the chemicals are such that you need a medical doctor. You need an exam to find out if this is safe for you. You have those where, again, the pharmacist can quiz you. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you use recreational drugs? Are you on any other prescriptions? What is your physical activity like? And all these other things. So they can find out whether or not it would be safe or not for you to take it. And there are some that the chemical level of the pill would be such that maybe could be over the counter. And what's interesting here is that under George W. Bush and Barack Obama, it was predominantly Republicans and very, very conservatives, if there were any of the Democrats, that were blocking this. And by around 2010-11, the pendulum began to swing, because preventing pregnancy was finally properly put in context against terminating a pregnancy. And conservatives began to come around and say, if we can prevent the pregnancy, then we can prevent abortion. And right about then was when the ACA was being hotly debated. This was very close to Pelosi's famous, well, we have to pass it to find out what's in it statement. And of course, upon it passing and being signed into law, we found out that religious organizations had no exemption against any form of birth control at all. And this included, originally, churches. My church would not have a problem with providing insurance that was going to cover preventative birth control. The Catholic Church, on the other hand, would have that problem. In the Catholic Church, the only accepted method of birth control other than abstinence is the rhythm method, which honestly I don't understand or support. But there are other organizations like Hobby Lobby, which is not a publicly traded company. It is a private company run by people who firmly disagree with parts of the ACA. And this was litigated endlessly. So now, though, we have conservatives who are all for making oral contraception, at least in part, if not fully, available over the counter where you don't have to go see a doctor. And suddenly liberals are the party of, no, we have to protect the gatekeeper. And this is for a couple of reasons. One, they want to protect the ACA. You see, the ACA is the only place where it's mandated by law that health care insurance must cover contraception. And they have to protect that at all costs. But they also want to protect Planned Parenthood. Because you see, we have learned in the past several years that of the millions and millions of dollars that go to Planned Parenthood, a lot of it makes its way back to Democrats, either in donations to the party or to candidates. And the argument has swung so far that we now have Democrats arguing against making birth control readily available to millions of people. And they're falling back on the same tired old arguments that, well, people can't get to the pharmacy and they don't understand it well, and their insurance may not cover it, and on and on and on and on and on. My insurance doesn't cover hydrocortisone ointment. I can walk into any Walmart and buy a tube of it for about $4. My insurance does not cover Bayer aspirin or St. John's aspirin. I can walk into any Kroger and buy a bottle. You see, that's what is being argued, that birth control should be regulated the same way as aspirin or Tylenol or ibuprofen, hydrocortisone, things of that nature. And when I talk about hydrocortisone, there's really a few levels of it. There's the over-the-counter stuff that's just hanging on the shelf. It's very weak, actually, compared to what I was prescribed. I believe the one I bought was a 0.5%, or maybe it was a 0.5% solution. I was prescribed a 2% solution, 4 times more concentrated. The pharmacist very simply said, it may take a little longer, but this is going to save you about $40. It's your choice. I bought the 0.5. This is honestly, it's an argument that we shouldn't even be having. Conservatives, yes, I understand. There are a lot of you out there that disagree wholly with any form of birth control, any form of contraception, save abstinence, or for others, the rhythm method. I'm with you there. I know that the only method that 100% of the time, save divine intervention, will prevent a pregnancy or the communication of a sexually transmitted disease is don't have sex. But I also know that the mass media, Hollywood for entertainment, video games, music, print media, and even education have gone so far to the left politically that sex is treated as just as normal an physical activity as jogging. And while I do want to impress on young people that having sex is a decision you should not make lightly, you're not going to reach everybody. And if you can prevent a pregnancy as opposed to terminate it, there's no choice in my mind. I would rather have Plan A available over the counter, at least in part. Like I said, maybe have it so you go to the pharmacist, and before anybody says language barrier, I have watched my local pharmacist in tiny little town Texas speak Spanish to a patient or to a customer. And I have watched them call with 2 phones right there at the window, a translation service for someone who I believe was speaking Mandarin. It may have been Cantonese. I don't know. But they have a translation service to where they can I Love Lucy the thing. So before anyone says language barrier, that's taken care of. This has come down to a we hate Republicans so much we will shoot ourselves in both feet and blame them that we had to issue. Make no mistake, if any Republican, and I really want them to do this in the 2020 election season, bring this up. Bring it up now. Talk about deregulating oral contraception. Make your Democrat opponent oppose birth control. Make them look their constituents in the eye and say, no, we want you paying more for this. We need to force the Democrats to out themselves for the liars and controllers that they are. We were honestly given a gift in Ocasio-Cortez because she is not a career politician. I don't know how much attention she has paid to politics prior to 2017 when she started her research and everything to run. But having someone who's never been a politician jump into politics, more often than not, is a very good thing. Ronald Reagan was exposed to politics prior to 1980 as the governor of California, but he was still an outsider. And 81 to 89 was a golden era. Donald Trump has only been exposed to politics as a U.S. citizen who watches it every day on CNN or C-SPAN. 2017 through now, our taxes are down, unemployment is at an all-time low, terrorists are running scared, the border laws are being enforced again. We're basically right back at 1981, starting Reaganomics. Except this time, we have a man who lived through it and who remembers it vividly and knows it works. And oddly enough, we have a staunch opponent of his who seems to be doing some of the same things that he's doing. That be, take it to the people who have spent decades in Congress and make them either shut up and support something that would benefit the country, or make them admit that they prefer politics to doing any good. I don't know. Let me know what you think. As always, keep it civil. We do not learn from arguments. We only learn from a debate. Please also remember to like and share the video, as well as to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're among the first to know of all new content as it is posted. Until next time, everyone, have a wonderful day.